Hello, Rose. Reality. Real eye dash. Hello. Let me get Michael Reed. All right. We'll keep the music on just in case here. Yeah, might give it a little good atmosphere. Alright, let's get this promo video off. Let's get my pretty face on the screen right now. There we go. Hi. Hello, I am Michael Ringtail. And give me a moment here. Making some adjustments before we get started. What are we doing here? Where is it? There it is. Perfect. All right. As you can see, I'm a ringtail lemur. If you don't know who I am, essentially I'm a observer of the human animal. When you're born on the planet Earth, you're given a ticket to the freak show. When you're born in the United States, as my family was shipped over from Madagascar too, you have a front row seat. Hello, Ali. Welcome, Ali. Oh, we got a feral dog barking in the background. That's how it goes. He just wants his pets. So, let's get the screen up here. Lots of crazy protests going on right now. Humans across the planet, well, the planet, the United States. Protesting everywhere. What is it called? The hands-off protest. And there are some glorious moments here. The human animal going bad. I like this. This is just in LA. Defend democracy. Whole bunch of relevant signs here. That dog is me. You hear me bark, bark. Oh, that's you. What have you done with our dog? Where's our dog? Anywho, let's take a look at this. Bring this guy up here. Let's see what he's got to say about it.
Washington, at the near the Washington Monument, and there were certainly tens of thousands of people, expressing fear and anger toward Trump and Musk. And
no kings, no tyrants. Hands off our democracy. Tax wealth, not work. It's almost like outside of the Twitterverse, this Elon human is not very well liked. Neither is this Trump fella. Almost like there's a lot of reasons to be mad at this person. Maybe because the organizations that were investigating him were closed down. People were fired who were investigating his practices, as opposed to checking on the fraud going on in your little Pentagon. You know, the Pentagon, where you have all those weird defense contracts that fund your foreign wars and murdering the brown-skinned humans you don't like for some reason. Didn't look into that. But you found some play in Bangladesh about trans people that was like $100,000, which is about less than 1% of the entire United States budget. But hey, let's take a look at these protests.
And Vance, principally Trump and Musk, around such a range of issues, every imaginable issue, from the attacks on democracy to tariffs.
They can't, one of the common themes a lot of these silly MAGA humans like to do is say that George Soros or the Jews are funding these protests. So, I mean, Are all these people getting paid? How much do you think of a check they get in the mail to go outside and do these protests and all across these cities and states?
Speech, social welfare programs, NATO, Ukraine, science, on and on. I could take up all our time talking about the issues. And, there was a great deal of creativity as well in the kinds of signs that people had up, clearly a lot of anger. And as I say, anger and fear.
Yeah, one of my favorite signs that I saw in regards to the tariff policy, someone holding a sign that said, "I'm terrified." Andrew, you mentioned this no shortage of causes. We often see some protest movements fizzle out because they are so wide-ranging. Is that an issue here?
Well, I think there is, a lot of...
Well, here's the thing. If the protests involve, I gotta put this lightly. If it involves physically changing the arrangement of people who are in charge, then yes, it will be very effective. That might be the push for the your current presidential ruler to call for a martial law of some sorts. But hey, who says necessary change is often bloodless, right?
Anger around all of these issues. I mean, certainly there were, some people who had signs about the attacks on public broadcasting or on U.S.
Yes. Can't have universal health care, but you can just eliminate that public broadcasting. A little mediocre liberal window into your expanded idea of what culture is outside of the United States. Let's cut that down and use that budget for more cops. This... Yes. Won't be gone that long.
Or about Palestine and Gaza. But, I think most people felt, the concern that, the Trump, Musk, Vance administration is really, really attacking so many fundamental institutions of American life. So I think there is not that kind of danger of it sort of falling into, some people just being concerned about.
Yes, there was talks of defunding FEMA, the organization responsible for bringing relief to natural disasters in states. Generally, your human states can't afford to do that themselves, so they rely on FEMA, something your tax dollars that you pay are supposed to go to. I guess not anymore. They need bigger defense contracts.
Broadcasting, or some people being concerned about tariffs or about, the attacks on the...
That's nice. Let's look at some of the best signs we have here. What do we got? Wisconsin hates Elon so much it could be one of his kids. Oh, nice one. Super califragile, racist, sexist, Nazi POTUS. I dig it. Third Reich? No. Abort unwanted presidencies. We're all the couch now. Know your parasites. Deer tick, dog tick, lunatic. Honk if you never drunk. Texted war plans. No times are bad if you partner with your ex-husband to a protest. You know times are bad if you partner with your ex-wife to protest. It's so large that bad actors can't even infiltrate to start a riot. Go figure. Look at them all go.
driving on the streets in America.
Yeah, and
see
Andrew,
people
sorry,
with
sorry
signs.
to step in, just to
Yeah.
to make a point. Some of the organizers said that they wanted actually a contrast from that 2017 Women's March, specifically to have, instead of one large protest, perhaps to have many smaller ones, so that movement could be dispersed throughout. And
You know, from places like Idaho, Montana, Missouri, Idaho, you know, one of the reddest states in America. I'd heard that there were demonstrations. You know, that may start to affect, you know, public views, the views of people who may have voted for Trump. You know, it's hard to know. It's hard to know. I mean, I saw some signs, you know, talking about, there was one very funny sign, a picture of a spine and saying, you know, spines for congressional Republicans.
All right, this guy talks way too slow. Let's get into some more general news, though. Let's see what the human animal is up to these days. Here's something that caught my eye. Texas bill targets furries banning non-human behavior in schools. Something that was not going on is all of a sudden a problem. According to the bill, examples of prohibited behaviors include using a litter box to relieve oneself. I'm pretty sure that was already forbidden in class. Pretty sure you cannot bring a litter box to class and take a dump in it. And it's amazing to me that this narrative has been going on for about a few years now, to the point where's the video of it? Where's the video of the person, the teacher, the student, you know, using the litter box in a world full of cameras and all your little phone devices that you have? Where's the humans thinking that they're cats and taking a dump in the litter box and coughing up hairballs and licking each other and biting, mating, and out in the open? Where is all that? Anything? Nothing? Is it completely made up? One could suspect that is the case. So he lists a bunch of things that no one's doing in school and says they're doing it in school to distract over the fact. As if Texas doesn't have enough problems when it comes to their power grid failing constantly. What are all those Bitcoin miners doing there, huh? Are they doing good? Something like this, a person proposing this should be barred from any political engagement whatsoever. It should come with a complete disregard from anything they have. Just like the Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is a state representative that talked about Jewish space lasers. Jewish space lasers. Once you talk about Jewish space lasers, your career as a politician should just immediately end. But not just furries, though, are the target. Oh, is this what I'm looking for here? Oh, no, that's also in Texas. Well, you know, more news in Texas than later. Texas bill would make identifying as transgender a felony punishable by jail. Even though gender and sex are two different things, how you express yourself is completely different from the body parts you're born with. And people change their names for other reasons other than being trans all the time. Is that going to be fraud too? How did this bill describe itself? Knowingly makes a false or misleading verbal or written statement by identifying their sex assigned at birth incorrectly to a governmental entity or to their employee. Oh, well, see, they can't separate the sex from the gender here. Someone needs to educate this politician and disbar him from any political involvement whatsoever. Maybe they should throw him in jail and in a correctional facility, bringing it up to the name correctional facility, and maybe re-educate him. Think that might be an idea? Texas State Rep Brent Money, a Republican, filed a bill that would make it illegal for a healthcare provider to treat any patient, including adults, with puberty suppression medication. Well, if you are adult, chances are you did go through puberty already. Hormone therapy or surgery, so the purpose of the treatment is to affirm the patient's gender identity. Something that was never a problem for the last 100 some odd years. If you want a good example of that, it doesn't take much to pull it up here. (1952) XGI becomes Blonde Beauty. This was a soldier who went through transitional care, male to female, and made headlines in the news. Like, it was just a fascinating story. It was just something of interest. Fast forward 70 years later, all of a sudden it's a travesty to some of these people, to the point where they're passing bills rather than looking at policies that create the horrid conditions when it comes to living in Texas. If you're not a millionaire, good luck. He added to the bill targets doctors and medical profiteers who exploit vulnerable people, pushing costly surgeries and lifetime pharmaceuticals for financial gain rather than offering genuine care. Well, you see, the surgeries and medications are genuine care. Are these people medical experts? What is their credibility to making these laws? Most, if not all, major medical associations in the United States: American Medical Association, American Academy of Pediatrics, American Psychological Association, support transition-related care for both minors and adults and oppose restrictions on it. Almost like experts are more correct on this than some random politician who has a obvious sex hang-up. I bet if we looked at his search history on computers, we would find maybe some trans porn in there. I'm just throwing that out there. That is what I think, in my opinion. My, lemur opinion, of course.
Also tonight, one of the biggest names in the Democratic Party is making a surprising break with the rest of Dems tonight on one of the country's most hot-button issues. California Governor Gavin Newsom criticizing transgender athletes who participate in women's sports during the debut episode of his new podcast. Listen to this.
Go on.
I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that. I revere sports, and so the issue of fairness is completely legit. And I saw that the last couple of years. Boy, did I saw how you guys were able to weaponize that issue.
Newsom there talking about all this, and why is it such a big deal? Couple reasons. Not many elected Democrats have taken that position. Also, governor is seen as a pretty likely candidate for president come 2028. Keep in mind, there are a lot of Americans who agree with Newsom on this, according to multiple recent polls.
It doesn't make it correct, does it?
Trans women athletes should not be competing in women's sports. And the issue of transgender rights overall became a real talker in the 2024 campaign, remember, after the Trump camp spent millions of dollars on the ad with the tagline, Harris is for they, them, Donald Trump is for you. Harris coming under fire from some corners for how she handled the issue during her campaign.
Would you still advocate for using taxpayer dollars for gender reassignment surgeries?
I will follow the law, just as...
Shut up, Kamali. You suck. The bill didn't pass, but the state has enacted other measures targeting trans people. See what these humans do when they don't face any repercussions of their bullshit. They just come back, and again and again and again. The Don't Say Gay bill that happened in Florida some time ago, that was not new. That came about in other states before that, years before that. In fact, that was during the years of Obama that first came up. So what these people do, they will just keep going and going and going until they face some dire consequences. Preferably permanent barment from participating in politics and whatsoever. I mean, these are people making decisions on how you humans live. I think that would be important to some people, but for some reason, a lot of humans, especially furry humans, don't think that's important. Recalibrate my camera here. All right. Pull you up. Come on, camera, let's go. Ah, of course. Whatever. I don't need it. The camera gonna work here. All right. Well, having camera issues, we'll figure that out later. Alright, anyone want to find out how do you get 375 years in prison? Oh, they didn't just, this West Virginia couple sentenced to maximum of decades in prison for abusing adopted children. Decades, more like 357 years. They didn't just abuse children, though.
It's no secret how deep racism goes in this country. Yet somehow we're still stunned by cases like the one we're bringing you tonight. We begin with a case out of West Virginia. Gene Whitefeather and Donald Lance, a white couple, are accused of treating their 5 adopted children like slaves. We know for sure 3 are black, according to the indictment. Prosecutors say the children were also targeted and adopted because of their race. The pair was arrested last fall. This was after a wellness check turned into a reveal about the living conditions of the children. 2 of the children, 14 and 16 years old, were found living in a barn outside. Neighbors tipped law enforcement off. Deputies discovered there were limited resources in that barn. The teens only had a small porta potty, no running water, or a mattress. According to neighbors, the children were not allowed inside of the home, the main house.
Of course not.
And had to do farm labor outside instead. Whitefeather denies the allegations and says the barn was simply a teenage clubhouse. Both Whitefeather and Lance are now behind bars as they wait for a trial to begin September 9th. Joining us to talk about it here on The Factor Uncensored, we have with us parent David Settles, Todd Smith, the CEO of Regal Media.
Don't you just love the human species? It's fantastic. Oh, now it works. Okay, now we're working. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay.
And trauma therapist Chow Win. Glad to have you all on The Factor Uncensored.
We don't need to read that. So yes, this couple adopted multiple children who are black just so they could be slaves. In fact, I think I had a better video of it here earlier. It just loaded this one. Pull you up here. It's just a sentence. Ah, that's just a sentence. Adopted children for slavery. Body cam. body cam. Yeah, well, they're not the only ones of this case, but
The children had no means to exit the barn on their own, no running water, no bathroom facilities, and were obviously deprived of adequate hygienic care and food. What was going on inside this house, where the children, then aged 5 to 16, they will die behind torture, forced labor. It is a level of cruelty that is so extreme. And last week, justice was served when these two were sentenced collectively to a punishment that exceeds 3 lifetimes, meaning they will die behind bars. And that sentencing
one can only hope
of a harrowing case that began back in October of 2023, when a home health worker 911 call exposed the extent of what was going on inside this house, where the children, then aged 5 to 16, were imprisoned, starved, and forced to work like, quote, slaves on the couple's rural Sissonville property. But the real story lies in what those children endured and how they survived. So I want to go back to that October evening in 2023 when this house of horrors was uncovered. At 5:46 p.m. on October 2nd, a home health worker made this urgent call to the Kanawha County Sheriff's Office.
He has 2 kids locked in an outbuilding. They've been in there for days.
And what deputies found when they responded was absolutely horrifying. According to an official news release from the sheriff's office, quote, deputies had to force entry into the barn where they located a juvenile male and juvenile female locked inside an approximate 20 by 14 foot room. The children had no means to exit the barn on their own, no running water, no bathroom facilities, and were obviously deprived of adequate hygienic care and food. Initial impressions, initial thoughts?
Yeah, we don't need a reaction from that. We know it was terrible human beings. Let's see what their sentence is here.
Harder to get a public entity, like it would be the state, a state agency, a county agency.
Let's take a look at the conditions here.
Pattern of racial targeting and abuse. And the evidence showed that they adopted these children from Minnesota home.
I want to know how they justify this. How did these humans like look at their other humankind and be like, nah, this is what this is what we'd adopted them for?
The shelter before moving
I would love to hear their story.
To Washington and then West Virginia, where the abuse had escalated, and jurors even saw damning proof of forced labor and psychological torture, including surveillance footage showing children being punished by standing motionless for hours with their hands on their heads. Now, what were the defense's claims? Well, Whitefeather's attorney, Mark Plants, called the shed where the deputies found the malnourished children a, quote, teen clubhouse. And I want you to listen to this argument from a preliminary hearing.
There's a key inside, and the 14 and 16 want their teenage clubhouse to go down there and play around.
Now, this explanation collapsed under scrutiny because the 911 caller directly...
Now, that is up to their defense attorney to come up with a defense, and that's the best that it could do.
Lance took the stand. Their testimony painted a starkly different picture. Whitefeather claimed she was a devoted mother who cooked, cleaned, did most of the farm work herself.
It's always a bad sign, by the way, whenever the accused has to take the stand. In any case. As far as I'm concerned, this is them being put on the fucking pedestal to be shown, have the light shown on what kind of monsters they actually are. Well, you know, pretty bad humans, nonetheless.
She denied all abuse allegations, doubling down on the teen hangout story.
I'm his mommy. I mean, they can disown me, but I will never disown them. As far as I'm concerned, they're my children. You love all your children. I love all my children.
And when Donald Lance took the stand, he painted himself.
Of course they're gonna say that. What are gonna be like? Fuck these kids. They're slaves, and they deserve to be at my whim to do labor.
Often Whitefeather is.
What kind of world were they fucking trying to run here? What?
Parents.
Man, you don't see us doing that. I mean, you don't see lemurs doing anything like that. We kind of just hang out and just get high and fuck and sleep and eat. That's about it.
Simply trying their best. Explained that one of the couple's children had mental health issues that they were trying to manage, but the jury had already seen damning evidence that told a very different story, including text messages where the couple referred to their black children as, and I'm very sorry to say this, monkeys. That's what they said.
Sorry for all the griping. I know you got enough going on with the 3 monkeys. I'm really sick right now and just irritated that these kids are such pigs and don't give a fuck. A huge thing for me if everyone is moving to a new house. Wow.
Mock them. Discussed physical punishments. Don't you know that digital evidence really hard to argue against? And in one particularly disturbing exchange,
I also find it amusing when some of these humans think you can just delete your shit and it's gone forever. No, it's on record. You're fucked.
they use the initials PB to describe one child, meaning P-boy, P-brain, psycho boy. Here's how Lance attempted to explain these messages.
Oh, please do.
The 100th time that your 10 to 13-year-old kid, who wets his pants,
my
it's
bad.
a little bit frustrating because every time it takes time, you have to get him cleaned up, change his clothes, or get his clothes changed, and it gets frustrating.
Joe, back to you. I mean, what do you want to hit first? The surveillance footage, the witnesses?
I don't think it takes a human with a half brain to figure out, like, how that was all just full of shit.
Delusion, a continuation of the delusion that they've been in the entire time.
Well, here's the thing. I think they know how most people will see them as, but they think that they're correct. In their own little twisted way, they feel like this is how things should be, and this is the preferred way, and for whatever reason, they just never grew out of their fucking southern racist phase.
So even though the evidence is damning, okay, there's still the matter of whether or not your explanation insults intelligence. And they really did that. I can imagine the jury was probably angry by hearing him. You call it a clubhouse? You didn't have to call it a clubhouse if it wasn't on text that it was called a clubhouse, or if it wasn't on video that it was called clubhouse. Why would you make that up? We all know it's not a clubhouse. So they made a lot of bad decisions in their testimony. It probably...
This is the funny thing. Like, even off the bat, I can come up with a better explanation. This was just a house that we put them in to punish them. If they're misbehaving, they just had to stay in here for a bit, and we just had the camera on them to keep an eye on them in case they get hurt. We actually do care about our children. We just got to teach them a lesson. That's our way of parenting. But, they're dumb enough to think that, like, you can just adopt children for slave labor. So they're not going to be too smart when it comes to explaining their fucking bullshit.
They knew they'd have the book thrown at them anyway, but even if they're going to testify, which is rare, there's a question of how you testify. And the way that they testified really insulted the jury and the judge's intelligence.
And a few things here. I mean, first of all, I got to call out the people around here. The neighbors, the home health worker decided to get involved, alert CPS to what was happening. Lance had made the argument.
Another organization they're probably going to do, your humans here in the United States are going to defund. So good luck getting those getting abused children taken care of. They're going to probably just going to start going after people who are making bad drawings that you guys don't like. Oh, he made a naughty drawing. He made a not safe for work drawing, and I'm pretty sure that Fox, not of age, in the prison. They'll just go after easier targets rather than people like this.
That one of the children peed his pants, that this was frustrating.
Yeah.
Forced child labor, severe child abuse. Whitefeather was convicted of all 19 counts against her, including civil rights violations, while Lance was convicted of 12 of the 16 counts against him. So the jury didn't find him guilty of 4 counts of civil rights violations.
They're going to die in jail. And if they somehow get out, they got no lives to look forward to. Let's be real. Let's be real about that. But hey, you want to know a way to murder your kid and get away with it? Just do what this couple did.
Tomorrow, the Department of State Health Services will release updated numbers on the measles outbreak in Texas. So far,
another one in Texas.
One child has died from measles here in Texas, and now we are hearing from her parents. Teresa Woodard joins us with their comments about the MMR vaccine, Teresa.
Yeah, Cynthia, the parents said their daughter Kaylee was 6 years old when she died on February 26th. The organization that interviewed them and posted that interview online is extremely anti-vaccine, and the parents still are too.
Measles symptoms start with fever, cough, runny nose, red, watery eyes, followed by a characteristic rash that starts on the face and spreads downwards. This is not like chickenpox. This can just outright kill you. And it does, and it has. So let's hear this wonderful couple here of human beings who showed their faces and what great parents there are. Let's see what their explanation is for not taking care of their child and murdering them.
Didn't want to go away.
The interview with this mother and father began in English, but at times switched to German with a translator. They are part of the Mennonite community in West Texas, identified by the state as the center of a measles outbreak that's infected more than 300 people since January. Their 6-year-old daughter developed pneumonia, a side effect of measles. She was the first death recorded from measles in the U.S. in a decade. She was unvaccinated.
She says they would still say don't do the shots. There's doctors that can help with measles. They're not as bad as they're making it out to be.
Well, it is, because your child is dead. You murdered her. How does it feel?
The nonprofit Children's Health Defense conducted the interview. Robert F. Kennedy founded this organization.
Well, this fucking vampire ghoul. This self-proclaimed medical expert telling you how to fucking take care of yourself in medical means. Can you imagine? Can you imagine, let's say, for example, you're a human that's sick and you go to your dentist. Check out your cancer tumor. Or, you want to learn about biology, so you go to a hair salon. That's Robert F. Kennedy when it comes to health.
In 2006.
He's read some things. He understands certain dyes and foods are unhealthy and that they should be removed from circulation. But then he goes on about how vaccines are causing autism in humans, which just makes him an idiot, and he should be disqualified from serving any position related to health. Why is he not being forcibly removed by the government? I don't know. I guess the government doesn't care, and they just enjoy you humans dying young. I think this is their way of culling your population so that they don't have too many losers out there that could work the factories when they bring those back here, right?
7. He's now the Secretary of Health. CHD is strongly anti-vaccine.
The measles vaccine is unequivocally safe and effective.
I mean, when has it not been? When has the vaccine for measles just started killing people? Does someone want to point that out? Can anyone out there, any human out there, point that out? When has it started killing people? When has the polio vaccine killed people? Get ready to have that come back too.
Information and disinformation cost us lives.
Public health experts say the erosion of trust in the MMR vaccine.
Based on nothing. It is based on nothing. It's based on made up bullshit.
Means a once eliminated disease is once again a threat, and preventable deaths.
He says God does no wrong. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, there you go. See, when you believe in an afterlife, it's much easier to swallow the fact that you murdered your child, because now she's off into heaven, playing Barbies with Jesus, or whatever the fuck she liked to do before she died. Man. If you ever want an example of why you humans should have a test before you're allowed to have children, well, here it is. Here's dumb bitch number 1, and here's a dumb fuck number 2 on the right. These two people made a human being, and then they murdered it. That was her purpose, I guess. According to them, God has a purpose. The purpose was this couple murders their kid. Why did they murder their kid? All because they feel that the vaccine was bad. Because some unqualified politician or some bullshit organization says it was. Because there's things in it that are not healthy by itself, including the vaccine. They'll say something, they'll point out something like, mercury! Mercury's in here! Is mercury good for you? It's like, well, if it was a lethal amount of mercury, why would they even list it on the bottle then? There's little traces amounts of mercury in tuna cans, apparently. MAGA in a nutshell. Shameful. They seem fine with it. Well, the good news is her suffering is over. She is free of this world and free of consciousness. She no longer exists. Here's something for you. A lot of these humans, especially if you go on Boomer Book, also known as Facebook, they like to claim that trans people are pedophiles and raping kids. Well, here's yet another story that doesn't involve a immigrant, a trans person, or a drag queen. Ex-youth pastor charged with raping children called victim 8 times, telling him to keep his fucking mouth shut. Former Michigan youth pastor, hey, that's where I was raised. Detroit Zoo. Anyways, former Michigan youth pastor and music director charged with more than 30 counts of sexually abusing children had his $3 million bond denied after prosecutors told the judge that he had called one of his victims 8 times after the allegations surfaced last year. Did he think that those transcripts in that phone were just gonna not be found? Zachary Joseph Radcliffe told the boy to keep his fucking mouth shut. In one of the phone calls, Assistant Washtenaw County Prosecutor Amy Reisner said in court. Radcliffe fled to Virginia after the allegations surfaced, but before he was charged, the campus of his alma mater, Liberty University, but it was phone calls to the victim that caused Simpson to revoke Radcliffe's bond entirely. Oh, this is very similar to a story I have for you. We also had a youth pastor another youth pastor in Michigan. He decided he was just going to start fucking a 14-year-old girl. He had this relationship with this 14-year-old girl. They would have sex in the church, in the basement. At one time, they messed around in the pews, apparently. And when things started to come around, he just left. He fled. Fled to California. Don't know if he was ever convicted. I know her boyfriend at one point pressured her into actually going to the police once she confessed this sort of thing. Yeah, this is fucked up. It's interesting, though, how these humans that do this tend to be oftentimes Christian and very adamant about protecting kids. And usually like to virtue signal about how much they hate the trans people. The population that's under 1%. "11 victims have been identified, 10 boys and a girl." Keep in mind, let's take a moment to think. The youth pastor, a man of God, a man promoting God's message, and a music director. Radcliffe pays some of the children with gifts, money, or trips to restaurants in exchange for videos and photos of them masturbating. 8 of the children complied. Are we going to charge those children with CP as well because, you know, they took the pictures of themselves? Oh, don't laugh at that. That's actually happened to some people out there. The youngest person ever put on the sex offenders list was 8 years old. It goes from 8 to 17. About 25% of people placed on that list on your registry are under the age of 18. Figure that one out. And keep in mind, in your United States, it's permanent. So their life has been destroyed at the age of 9. Alright. I got some things lined up here, but it's going to be a minute. I'll be right back. Enjoy a little bit of music and some memes. Alright. I'm back. The hell is that? Oh. Well. I don't think we need that. Turn off those memes. There we go. That's better. Alright, well, I have a bit of a struggle trying to get people to subscribe here. So, hey, Dalen. Hello, reality. Yeah. Oh yeah, I had one more story that wasn't, before we get into this one, there's one more story that was not a drag queen. Oh, what we got here? Very quickly. Just add to that story. Tennessee pastor and teacher Philip Filer has been sentenced to 22 years in prison for raping a 14-year-old who he was taken to church camp in Alabama. 41, former youth director at Main Street Church of Christ. What is it with these people and their delusions, by the way? These humans that like do this sort of thing. Like, do you think like when I was a cub, well, younger cub, teenager, we looked at our 20-year-old teachers as old, quote unquote. We're like, oh my god, they're so old. We're like 14, 13. What makes you think some 16-year-old, 14-year-old is going to want your 41-year-old human schlong? I mean, I can't comprehend. Keep in mind, I know all types of furries. I have friends from A to Z, and they're all into all sorts of stuff. When it comes to like fetishes and role playing, anything you can imagine, anything that would kind of make you go ugh. And yet, I don't often hear them arguing for things like this, for justifying things like this. In fact, actively against this sort of thing. They don't have to. They are very comfortable with themselves, so they don't feel the need to become part of a church and do things like talk about banning trans people or hating gay people. And it seems like the people that do that sort of thing, especially the more heavy-handed ones, are trying to overcompensate for something, some kind of human flaw that they have. In this case, Stephen Plyer, whatever the hell he is, they're going to be plying his balls off in prison. Alright. Is actually this cherry person even observes it. Why are there so many of these nonces within the holier-than-thou Christian cult? Beats me. So, not a drag queen. This is where the groomers are. Yep. Alright. Now, something a little more lighthearted. I'm often on a quest. I'm on a quest to try to make myself a more popular furry, and they say maybe you should try to be a little more lighthearted. Find more fun things to talk about, and be, keep the gaze within the furry fandom and describe furries. And I'm like, no, that's boring. But I'm willing to open myself up for some convincing. I haven't watched this video at all. Maybe it sucks. Maybe it's shitty. I just thought it would be something that's a little bit of a levity compared to everything else we've been watching and talking about. So, let's see. KZ Coyote. Never watched anything of his before. Never heard of him. Let's see what this is about. Haters were right. Furry house parties are weird. Let's hear about it.
What's up, party animals? My name is Kezi, and I...
Nice setup, by the way. I love this big TV screen in the background.
The title...
Definitely okay, music maker.
A little bit clickbait, but it's also kind of not. So,
get to the point.
I don't know if I ever talked about it a whole.
Alrighty, this is already making me aware of why the channel of ADD, YouTube ADD exists. Let's see, what is it? YouTube ADD version. I'll probably pull that up here. Oh my god, ADD summary. Fuck it.
A lot, but locally in my community, there's actually been these weekly parties. And they've been amazing, don't get me wrong. Like, I don't want to say that the haters are right and that it's like truly a tragedy and, you know, it's some horrible thing. How
I also have to compliment this person's sound coming out of that suit. Oftentimes, when I hear these furries talk, they're wearing their suit, it's just all... There was one furry I saw who had just a bandana over his face, and he couldn't even get past that muffled phase. So nice props on design in that regard.
However, I'm noticing that it is a little bit distorted. You know, you see a lot of furries who are like, well, the fandom's super safe for work. We're not all about the lewd stuff. We're not.
If you're an adult and you have functional genitalia, yes it is.
We're not super into all the not safe for work stuff.
Who are you explaining that to, by the way? Are you explaining that to your mom? I don't. I never understood this this push or promotion or like explain or defensive nature of just coming out and being like, we're not all into the sex stuff. Like, who are you saying that for? Who's that for exactly? Because I can tell you right now, no normie is watching this video. No, you're not going to convince the conservative Christian that you're okay.
And yes, so a lot of the fandom really isn't not safe for work. You can do stuff like go to conventions, and it's generally a safe for work experience on the main floor. There are.
Oh, well, yes, because for some reason humans made laws against public nudity, even though it's just a human body. The human body being naked is not inherently sexual. But, you know, it's gotten to the point where someone sees a naked person and it's as shocking as seeing a guy getting his head blown off by a shotgun to some of these people. These humans are weird. I had to put a suit on just to make them feel a little more comfortable so that, you know, my schlong isn't just waving about in the air. You ever try putting... If you never wore pants before, if you're a fellow animal watching this, you wear pants, it's itchy as hell for the first week and a half.
Are some 18+ areas, but it's not like that's the whole thing. And, you know, you can never deny that that's what happens. You know, if you ever walk into the wrong hotel room, you might see something you wish you didn't.
Like what?
And that's kind of where I'm finding myself. I'm going to these local parties, and it's literally just down the road. And I go every week. And there's something that I'm finding that I'm really struggling with, and that is the not safe for work aspect. So
why? Let's find out. I'm not going to make an assumption. Let's play and find out.
The host, amazing person, and his house is very large, so he splits it up into kind of two halves. And then so there's the master bedroom, which is like half the house. There's like a bedroom, bathroom, and then a shower, and then the rest of the house with like the kitchen and stuff. Past the master bedroom door, that's where stuff gets freaky.
Then don't go there. If you don't want to have fun, if you just want to have fun and play some Mario Kart, you stay in one area. And if you want to have fun, then you go to the other area. As simple as that. I mean, I've been to some parties where it was all fun, and there was one room dedicated to those who want to film the fun. Fucking. We're talking about fucking here.
That's where everybody goes and they get their kink on, and, you know, that's fine. I'm supportive of that. If you're going to be a furry, especially in the modern world, don't cave to prudes. I highly recommend not being like, well, I hate that.
Well,
I hate
what are we
the not
talking
safe
about
for
here
work
then?
Stuff, and thinking that that's going to make you more popular or more accepted in society. It's not. Humans are freaks, and you're not going to get any brownie points from haters by acting like you're better than all of humanity for what it's worth. So, you know, I definitely support having that room existing, but there was one time I did a DJ set recently, and the host likes to have me DJ. I mean, I've got like a pretty decent setup, so...
I would say so, yes. That was very compliments to that setup.
It's definitely fun to have, and while I do enjoy the sets...
I wouldn't mind paying this person music if I like it, actually.
This last one kind of sucked. So what ended up happening was...
Ooh, drama bomb, let's go. Drop it, drop it, drop it, drop the bomb.
My set to...
Why are you bugging out on me? Why is my camera bugging out on me and freezing me? Ugh. Bugs. It's like... It like locks up and then it figures itself out and comes back. I don't know what it wants from me. Oh. I think this is probably why. There we go. Let's do this. We'll turn down the resolution. Sorry to interrupt it for this bullshit here. Oh well, we'll let it figure itself out.
Nobody. There was nobody in the living room. And I was like, well, crap, where is everybody? I thought this was supposed to be a party. They're all in the back room. They're all being horny.
Well, that's when you take the DJ set and you put it in the back room then. Start putting those beats to the beats, if you get my drift. You see the guy getting hit in the back with the nine tails? You start every time he hits him with the nine tails. You have some fun with it. Guy getting barebacked, you know. You start playing some carnival music. Da 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 da, and you increase the pace as he increases his pace. That's what you do. That's what you should do. Let's do that.
And then there's the other group that might be outside smoking pot. And it's just kind of hard to balance that. You know, I definitely have had experiences with pot and sex in my life. I'm an adult. I do adult things. However, it's not, you know, my MO. It's not the thing I want to do every...
I have no problem with what this guy's saying or anything like right now. But I bet you any money, there's at least someone within his little group that got, like, fucking super butthurt about this shit. Because that's just how a lot of humans are in general, and a lot of furries are. There's probably some, I don't know, some wolf suffering from mange that got angry at this coyote here.
Single week is get turned and get horny. You know, a lot of people...
Do it while you're still able. Word of advice to all you young furries out there, take care of your teeth and fuck more.
In the main room, they'll get like super cuddly. And in the same way that I'm not going to go fool around with all those people in the party in the other back room, you know, I kind of feel like cuddling is a more personal thing, and I'd like to like someone before I cuddle them. That tends to happen too. You know, everyone gets super cuddly in the main room, you know, watching a movie or playing video games or whatever. And I find myself always uncomfortable. Not with what's happening. I don't care that people are fooling around. I don't care that people are cuddling. I don't even care that people are smoking weed. I just know that those activities are not what I want to do. And I don't know what I want to do. You know, that's another problem is I go to these events because, you know, therapy and stuff like that is like, oh, well, you're seeing friends, you're hanging out with people, you're being social. That should be
If
really
you actually just, maybe if instead of doing the DJ set, just actually hang out.
Good and healthy. Well, it reached a breaking point. And a week ago, I tend to drink at the parties, which is...
I'll brush my teeth right now. I should specify all you adult furries 18 and up. Heed my words. I mean, children should not be on the internet.
Isn't, again, super recommended. It's not what I like to do. I don't drink at home anymore. I tend not to drink when I'm out and about. But at these parties, I kind of been like, well, you know, I can drink because, you know, that's kind of the theme. Everyone brings a bit of alcohol. I can have a few drinks. But I keep finding myself, you know, either I don't drink and I'm really shy and quiet and I don't talk to anybody, or I do.
That's why you should drink.
And I talk to some people. And I'd rather talk to some than none, obviously. But it reached a point where I realized that I'm not here with everyone else. Like, I'm physically there, but the headspace that I'm in is just way off the vibe of the house.
Oh man, this guy relates. This coyote relates to me. I relate to this coyote. Excuse me. I relate to this coyote. He took me back a little bit here because I can know what that feels like. Like my headspace for the longest time was off in other directions. When I was hanging out with people, I think it would have something to do with ADD, but I'm always off in thinking about other things that are going on.
And if anything, I was just bringing everybody down. And
that's why I started to learn to just, you know, put away the camera. Excuse me. Put away cameras, put away drawing pads, put away the phone. At least keep that in my pocket. And just let things happen. Let things happen as they happen. And that's just how it should go sometimes. And you have a better overall experience that way.
You know, looking inward, like I said, I'm not super, you know, huffy. I'm not going to go to the bedroom and bang every bottom who wants it. I'm not going to go into the main room and snuggle with, you know, the whole group in a big fur pile or whatever. And I'm not going to go, you know, get really high with a bunch of people. I mean, especially because smoking weed gives me really bad anxiety. So, like, what do? Why am I there? And someone said something that, like, hurt my feelings. And I'm just like... And I certainly don't think it was like on purpose, but it made me like kind of snap. I was like, oh my God, I just don't belong here. This is not my scene. This is.
Imagine having that thought after spending how much money getting yourself groomed, as well as this coyote has.
This is not where I want to be. This is not what I want to do. This is not any part of me at this point. You know, sure, yes, like I said, you know, I do enjoy fooling around. I do enjoy snuggling. I do enjoy, you know, the occasional joint, but I don't enjoy the vibe of where that's kind of the reason you're there. You know, when I go to a furry con, again, same idea. I'm going down to the con floor. I'm meeting new people. I'm meeting people who have who've seen the stuff I make. You know, I'm meeting people who have fursuits and want to talk fursuiting. I'm meeting people who have any kind of thing to talk about. It's a very social experience where I'm talking to people, but at these local parties, it's the same people every time. And so there's very rarely a brand new topic, you know, that I feel is worth discussing. You know, this kind of ties back to the, you know, am I boring video, where I don't know, you know, at these local parties, it's been kind of hitting hard that, like, I can't really talk to anybody. You know, I want to talk to them. I want to have a nice, deep conversation, but given my personal circumstances, along with, you know, the vibe of the environment, it's really hard to find, you know, people to connect with. You know, there was one person that I really liked to see who was the other DJ. And so we would talk shop and DJ stuff all the time. But even that kind of gets circular. Yeah, we both know how to DJ. That's so cool. Because I'm not someone who likes to talk all the time about everything. I mean, I do. I make YouTube videos. I mean, look at what I'm doing now. But I have a desire to do things. You know, I want to go out, I want to see something new. I want to go experience something that's not something I can experience every day. And I mean, that was what was really cool about the weekly parties was, you know, yeah, that it felt like a mini FurCon down the street every week. And at a certain...
Every week's kind of much for me, even back then. When I was a much younger lemur, once every month was sometimes a lot, especially when you're going to a college, you work on a job. Yeah, it can definitely be a drag sometimes. Like, oh yeah, that party's happening. Well, shit, I got so much to do still though. I guess I have to go. Oh well.
Point, the host ended up deciding, oh, let's do a horny themed party. It was called Bottomless, where you just wear your underwear around. This is a big thing at furry cons as well. You'll go to the room parties that are underwear parties, where it's not
I've certainly been there,
nude, but it's like, yeah, bring your cutest lingerie or undies and
unless
and
unless you have a fursuit. Most of the ones, they are just either fursuit or undies.
And be all flirty. And that's fine, but that's not a party I would go to. And so when the house host made that party happen, the whole vibe changed. The entire vibe of the house went from, oh yeah, let's talk, let's hang out, let's be friends, let's chit chat and do fun things, to, I want to fuck. And it's bad. And it's not, I mean, okay, bad is a strong word, but it wound up being bad for me. Because if I want to fool around, I want to find someone special to do it with. If I want to cuddle, it's got to be someone special to do it with.
I mean, it could be someone special. I mean, it would be special in the sense that it's someone that you see every once in a while. I feel like it's one of those things where you're putting the ass on the pedestal, and I can relate to that. I can relate to not being on top of wanting to do just one and done bangs, especially with strangers. I think I did that once. Last year, and let's just say it wasn't good. Could have been better. Did a few before that. We're okay. But most of the time, I'm actually regularly dating people, seeing them more than once a week. I never had just like a one night stand, really. At least not intentional.
And yeah, like I decided last week that was gonna be it. I did a lot of stupid things while really intoxicated.
That could do it too.
After that, I'm just like, why am I here? Why am I doing this to myself when I don't even like it? And so I just told the host, yeah, I'm over it. As much as I appreciate what you're doing for the community, it's gone beyond my comfort levels. You know, I'm not bringing anything or taking anything from the events. I'm just there because I should. And I think that's something to really consider within the fandom, is if that's why I titled the video.
It's a fandom. The only thing up front, the only thing you're going to have in common with another furry to start is just the fact that you're another furry. I'm a lemur, you're a coyote, we're both non-human animals. What happens from there? Who knows? But that's the only thing right now that we have in common in that sense. Until we get to know each other a little bit better.
Haters are right, because yeah, you can find yourself in a situation.
What haters? What were the haters? What haters? What did they say?
Like I did. I don't know a ton of people who do, but I definitely see the trends of just like, this hypersexuality that
happens everywhere. As one person described it to me, they worked as a teacher's aide, and they would have these teacher gatherings, and those two were just outright fuckfests. Outside of the meetings and the little panels that they have, people are going to the bars, they're hooking up with other teachers, and they're having sex. they're having a little freak on. Yeah, I used to one of my human friends, we would go to the bars, and he would hook up with a woman that night. He preferred older women, because they tend to have less baggage than younger women. Older women as in like 30s, 40s. Someone who's got their shit together, usually.
Evolves from certain furry communities. And, you know, I'm certainly not the only person who has ever experienced a thing where the vibe shifts from innocent friend making to not safe for work interactions. And, you know, is this, what can I do about this? Well, I know what I do already. I love music. That's my deepest passion, is being able to perform on stage and share music with as many people as I possibly can. You know, I want the fandom to be a more musical place and not necessarily a more sexual one. And again, not to say that, like, it shouldn't be, you know,
It could be both. It could be both.
sexual, or, because, I mean, you know, you're denying a lot of people their existence.
You could be like the DJ version of the piano player in the movie Eyes Wide Shut. You know, but keep an eye on your set and keep those vibes going.
However, you know, I think that there needs to be more of these safe for work spaces, or at least there needs to be more of these spaces where you're meeting people and not their holes. And
I mean, you could just say no.
I definitely try to support that. You know, I love music. I love events like Plush and Slabtown Scamper, where, you know, the focus is the event in and of itself and not necessarily any bedroom interactions. There's kind of a major theme around the whole thing, and it makes for a much better experience for everyone involved.
Yeah, I think it sounds more like you want a special music-focused event. Let's get a bunch of musicians together. Let's get people who are passionate about making music and start vibing. And that's how you hook up and maybe make some collabs. I would love, you know, this coyote here brings up an idea that, you know, be kind of nice to have just like an art meetup. Just straight up people coming in and drawing their shit, sharing some ideas, talking about their major projects they're working on, or, you know, sharing experiences they've had with other customers, their commissioners. All right, yeah, I dig this coyote. Cool dude. At least, yeah. This to me just comes off as very cathartic, ranting. Yeah, just expression, venting. I should say venting more than ranting. It's a vent. I find it very cathartic to vent on the internet sometimes, because whether it's one person watching or 0 people or 1 million people, it's very cathartic actually. Just to express your emotions into a space like this, and just get it off, let it go, let it out. You know, at least he, to his credit, he's not here moralizing over it. He's given his personal experience, and he's not making it everyone else's problem, which some furries tend to try to do. When one furry had a problem with people wearing pup hoods, so he advocated that we come together and push those people out. That's an example of someone who moralizes. And we just can't have that. That is disgusting.
And then, you know, if you do want to go hook up with someone, well, then you can do that. You can meet someone in these more safe for work spaces and then decide, okay, do I want to take this further? Do I want to be more intimate? Do I want to be that kind of person with this person I met? Instead of, well, everyone's doing it, I guess I'll feel left out if I don't. And that's been the biggest thing, is like, okay, sure, I bet if I put in the effort, I could go cuddle. I could go, I could go cuddle. I could go be in the bedroom fooling around with everybody. You know, it's not like that I'm being denied because I want to. You know, it's that I don't want to, and yet I still feel left out. And don't push yourself to be in a place where you're starting to feel uncomfortable. Just because, you know, oh, well, friendship's good for you, bad is bad for you. If you're not having a...
There comes a point, too, where you just... I don't want to say you have too many friends, but it comes a point where it's impossible to keep up with everybody. A lot of times you'll find yourself connecting with someone. I don't want to sound like you're using a person, but when you have aspirations beyond your drudgery job, this coyote, for example, has music. You'll meet a lot of people, get to know them a bit, but when it comes to like your passions and projects, and if they're not interested, they're not able to help out. Like there's only so much time you have. You're not going to give all that time up just to hang out every week and drink booze, right? Or participate in something that has nothing to do with your own interest. And that sucks. But that is the life.
Good time. If you are uncomfortable, you need to not push yourself to be in that environment more than absolutely necessary. You know, if you're just be uncomfortable in general, but you do truly want to try a new thing, well then yeah, you know, you can push past the anxiety. But when it comes to a point of you're pushing yourself to be in an environment you don't enjoy because, well, it's supposed to help me feel better, don't. And that's what I was doing for way too long.
All right.
And it ended up breaking in a real
Basic stuff right there. That's a little bit of levity compared to everything else we've been looking at. I think next time I'm going to screen out some furry videos and see what we can find. And that could be the theme next time. The quest to become a popular furry YouTuber and see what's the most popular thing out there. This person's growing. He's got some personality. He's got a good setup. Do. All right. Well, that's all I got here for today. Tomorrow, actually, Monday, Crafty Andy's going to have his own little thing about the Devil May Cry anime. A lot of your human chuds are getting super butthurt on that. So yes, over here at this channel, Crafty Arts. Don't have the time set yet, but there will be a notification put up on here for that. So subscribe to that channel. Subscribe to this one too. And also we got a gaming channel. Monday through Fridays there are live streams of every type of video game out there. Right now we do themes of, let's see, with Squigs Weasel, we have a Retro Week, Indie Week, Resident Evil series, Ratchet and Clank. You want to help support us? We got the store here on Etsy under Crafty Andy Arts. He's the one that manages this. If you want a discount at that store, we got a Patreon right here, Crafty Andy. All right. Well, I appreciate everyone that lurks. I do appreciate lurkers. Thank you. You are very. I appreciate you watching the stream. Thanks for coming by, Dalen. Thanks for coming by, Realty. Real Eye Dad. I'm not sure how to say that. Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I'm sure the alert will come in any moment now. Oh, I gotta copy those alerts. Oop. Copy. Get back there. There we go. Thank you very much. And good night.